Hi everyone, welcome back to this video on urban design patterns for a sustainable future. Today we will be looking at building regenerative and healthy communities. So the order that we are going to follow is going to be first looking at the community health, and then we will be looking at how can we build regenerative communities, and then assessing what is needed and the goal setting. So for community health, we will be looking at how urbanism makes us sick, what defines a healthy community, and then how do we heal our communities. After that, we will be moving on to regenerative cultures and how can we build regenerative cultures. Then how can we move on to something called participatory design, using the concept of also transition design. And this is something that you are going to use in your final assessment or activity for this tier. And then you're going to do a SWOT analysis, and then you will be looking at some of the global eco-village network sustainability cards, and so that you can do your own assessment and goals from them. And then you're going to make your own goals, also based on something called biomimicry for social innovation. You're going to also have to show evidence for sustainability in the idea that it is good for the people, good for the ecology, good for the economy. So I will explain the final activity or task for this tier. However, let's now begin looking at the rest of this presentation. But that definitely the explanation for the final activity is going to be at the end, not now. So first of all, the health of the community we're going to be looking at. We will be looking at this article with the title "Bad Urban Design is Making Us Miserable." I'm just going to skim through it here, and I will give you the link so that you can read, at your own pace if you like. But the problem with living in cities that are crowded with poor urban design, they have greater rates of cardiovascular and respiratory diseases, and there's more depression, more chronic diseases, and there's also the risk of developing generalized anxiety disorders in such places that are crowded and also unhealthy, with breathing problems, and that can add stress and different eating habits that are going to be unhealthy at the same time, because there's also lack of movement. So that also leads to, on the long run, into chronic diseases. And so there's more on the brain science here that you can read about, and there's a lot of psychiatric disorders that can develop from this lifestyle. However, some of the underlying factors come due to having a lack of access to green spaces, air pollution, loneliness, perceived and actual crime, and social inequalities. Basically here, so it's important for us as urban planners to realize and recognize the factors that define the urban environment, which increase or decrease the mental illness. So the incidence of the bright side over here, the incidence of depression within the urban area is lower when people have access to high quality housing and green spaces. This tells us everything over here that we need to plan for. So the idea is here, urban living is a complex, contradictory, and difficult phenomenon, but we can reshape how we design our urban space. And so second, I like this one. Second, we know that all health and mental health in particular depends on both nature and nurture. For example, emerging evidence for epigenetics, which examines how the environment affects the expression of our genes, such as the impact of urban living depends on our pre-existing genetic makeup. So there are two factors. There's the genetic factor, but there's also the environmental factor. So and so here, yes, urban living can bring great benefits to mental health through increased opportunities for education, employment, socialization, and access to specialized care. So basically, we have to understand that, yes, there is pros and cons, but the problem is we only have a problem when we poorly design our spaces. So that's why we have to yes, we need the access to education and socialization, and we need the decreased sprawl that comes from living in compact areas. However, we need to just know how to design our space properly, which is something that we will be looking at in detail in tier 3. Here's another article about how the mental health is affected by big cities, and are they actually making us sick or not. And so here it's about the idea of experiencing stress in the city, and noise and competition and unnatural atmospheres. How do they all affect our mental life? And so basically here they are trying, they talk of this is about England over here, and where mental health problems are concentrated in England. But this is the work of psychiatrists, and they're trying to understand how living in the city compared to the village life, with density, deprivation, poverty, unemployment, and all of these things, and how they impact our mental life. So mental health. So basically, these articles will be provided to you to look at, and I'm sure that you have, if for those of you who are studying psychology or are into these kind of concepts, you can go and look deeper and research the way you like. I just like to open the doors for you to understand that there are certain correlations, especially if you have tried to live in two different areas. You are going to feel that something about you changes, whether to the better or worse, depending on where you are. The quality of water, the quality of air, the quality, just the stress environment, the noise, the light, pollution, all of these things, they have a big impact on us. And we have to understand and realize that, and understand how the environment needs to be nurturing and natural as much as possible. Okay, so now what defines a healthy community? Okay, so a healthy community goes beyond quality medical care and is reflected in the social and environmental factors that promote well-being. It is a place where all are free from discrimination and oppression, and there is equitable access to the resources needed for optimal health. For example, you don't have to travel to another country to get some green around you or some blue around you. This all needs to be around you and close, so that you're always feeling healthy. And also it involves social equity at the same time. Therefore, this means we look at arts and culture, inclusion, public education and access to public education, and healthcare services, recreation and opportunities to socialize, healthy and safe physical environments, employment, public transportation, housing, community services, and civic engagement. So when we design our cities, we have to make sure that all of these boxes, or all of these circles, let's say, are being ticked. Okay, so all of my city involves all of these areas. My space is designed in a way to include all of these areas, so that I have a healthy community. The next thing we will be looking at is how do we heal ourselves and our communities. But before we move on, we are going to look first on how to understand a human being. This is going to help us. I want you to understand how to form a better idea, to give you better context, because in order to solve a problem, we have to, or design, we have to co-create, meaning we have to understand first what these humans need. So we're going to watch this video together.
I am a human being.
I have needs.
I have a need for healthy food.
I have a need for clean water.
I have a need for shelter.
I have a need to feel safe and secure.
I have a need to feel included.
I have a need to feel useful and needed.
I have a need to love and feel loved. I have a need to be validated and heard.
I have a need to be acknowledged for my gifts.
I have a need to feel like I belong.
When my needs are not met, I am more likely
to be fearful,
to be selfish,
To be reactionary. To take more than I need.
To be irrational,
to be angry,
To be violent.
to hoard,
To be individually focused.
to engage in risky behavior,
To commit crimes.
I will be unable to empathize and care for the needs of others.
However, if my needs are met, I am more likely
to be generous,
To be grateful.
to be inspired,
to be insightful,
To feel alive. To be helpful.
To be community-minded.
to have self-love and respect,
to want to give.
To be grateful to receive.
To have wisdom.
I will be able to empathize and care for the needs of others.
I am a human being. And this is how I can be understood.
All right, so now we are going to focus on how can we heal our communities, as in how do we take care of our health, and looking at the medical side of things. So first of all, let's think about the first organism that was on Earth. The first organism that was on Earth was the bacteria. And the word eco-friendly means it's derived from nature. It's like nature, it works with nature, it dissolves naturally and decomposes in nature. And so we're going to be focusing on also the concept of eco-friendly as we move on. Now, how do we become immune to diseases, and how do we heal ourselves, and how do we prevent diseases? Some of the common chronic diseases that are happening, or not chronic, but they're current diseases of the living in the city, are diabetes, pre-diabetes, obesity, acne, hormonal imbalances, and this also means the endocrine system, as I showed you before. The endocrine system, this could mean glands would stop functioning, especially the adrenal glands, because of stress, or polycystic ovaries. They develop because of the pituitary gland stop, having dysfunction in releasing and secreting hormones, and anxiety, depression, hair loss, fast aging, polycystic ovary again here, anxiety, lack of sleep, muscle, joint, tendon pain and rupture in tendons, bone fracture, irritable bowel syndrome, and IBD, IBS and IBD, viruses, bacterial infections, and cancer. And obviously we have the coronavirus at this point, but these are the really common, diseases that eventually would lead to cancer. And I didn't add the blood pressure. Blood pressure is obviously one of them as well, but it's not written there, but I'm just saying it for you. Now, there's certain things called VOCs, and these are volatile compounds, and they come from the following compounds that are hydrocarbons, and they are petroleum based. So methane is one of them, and the sources are from cows, leaky pipelines, landfills, and the impact is it causes climate change, as meaning extreme weather conditions, increased temperatures, elevated temperatures, melting of glacial caps, increased waterfall, all is very unhealthy. Formaldehyde, it's a preservative that is found in paneling, particle board, furniture, carpeting. So in our homes, actually. So it causes skin and eye irritation, increased asthma, it's carcinogenic, nasal, and causes leukemia. And when we have these things around us in our apartments or buildings, because they're cheaper and easier, this is where we develop something called new building syndrome. Or even when you get a car, like you feel like you want to vomit every time you're in a car because of the smell of the plastic in it and the painted furniture. It's not even leather, it's not even natural leather. Benzene, it's found in tobacco smoke, service stations, exhaust from motor vehicles, and industrial emissions. It causes leukemia, neurological damage, and organ damage. And xylene or toluene is found in tobacco smoke, magic markers, fossil fuels, paint thinners, and it causes neurological damage, skin and eye irritation, organ damage. So basically, these highlights is in dry cleaning fluid and paint stripers. It impacts the central nervous system. It causes depression to the central nervous system. It's a carcinogenic, and it's a skin irritant. So there you go. These are not eco-friendly materials. So these are the things that we want to take care of. Our hormones, the amount of vitamins and minerals in our body, the good bacteria in our body versus the bad bacteria, enzymes, which really, they control our whole body with their activity, and water, maintaining, because our body is 70% of our body is water. So we have to control our stress. We have to move as much as we can. We have to control our chemical exposure to food, in food, fabric, paint, furniture, and clothing. We have to control, also make sure that we're eating a healthy diet that's free from GMOs and pesticides, and is organic. We are impacted by air quality, water quality, and soil quality. We are impacted by climate, and we are also impacted by our sleep quality. So all of these have an impact on us, and we have to make sure that we are not even counterbalancing, we are taking them to a minimum, taking the bad aspects to a minimum, and increasing let's say the sleep quality, improving our climate, improving our air, water, and soil quality, eating a healthy diet, and saying no to stress, moving more, and opting for eco-friendly material. Now, for cancer, we can do something called immunotherapy. Immunotherapy comes from healthy diet and looking at traditional wisdom. When you eat in a healthy way, and you will nurture the good cells in your body that can attack the Y cells, that can attack the cancer cells. So our bodies, they have two types of cells. We have the good cells that can replicate, but we also have the cancer cells that have a tendency to grow if we feed them sugar, processed food, and all of their deep fried food. So anything that's made in the factory, anything that is, and I know this because I studied chemical engineering, and in chemical engineering we studied food technology, and there's a lot that goes on, you know, in the factory once things become processed. And so basically, there's also nurturing mindfulness and personal growth, celebrating art, celebrating culture, going outside and just having this moment to yourself and meditating. Or you don't have to like sit down and do like that, but just take this moment outside to breathe and just let your brain release it from all of the stress and anxiety, but also have this moment here to enjoy the outdoors and the fresh air. Strengthen your immunity through eating in season and eating local and organic to fight viruses. And also we look back at traditional wisdom in this area, because they, you know, traditional wisdom for every place, they have specific ways of eating and cooking at certain seasons. Improve the climate by planting trees, composting, so that the good microorganisms and insects can decompose the food and give us nutritious food. And then also we have the insects and the microorganisms in the soil are the ones that are responsible for improving the climate by sequestering carbon dioxide, meaning absorbing carbon dioxide, and fixing nitrogen. Now, these actually have a better job at improving our climate than trees. And so that's something we have to take care of. Like, we need to leave the land empty enough, so like we have more soil and more living soil available for those to take care of our climate. So when we are designing our cities, we have to design 50% for humans, 50% for nature. That will mean it's a win-win situation for human beings. They're going to feel they're going to be in a beautiful place, a healthy place, and for the biodiversity to also thrive and take care of the place for us. We have to opt for sugar-free food, because bacteria feeds on sugar, cancer cells feed on sugar, and insulin levels rise up with sugar. Insulin is a hormone, and if this hormone goes out of balance, the whole endocrine system, the whole hormonal system and the glands would stop functioning the way a healthy life, a healthy person would have. So you'll start to have these very difficult symptoms on a daily basis that prevent you from living a healthy life. And I want you to look up the side effects of having high insulin levels if you are interested, because this is really even the current disease for teenagers, and they don't even realize it, and they get into their 20s and they don't even know that. And I was one who suffered from this problem. It was not because of sugar, really, it was because of stress, but it made me eat more sugar. And so it took me a really long time to be able to get off the sugar, and it did have other consequences on my hormones. So they're all connected. Now, avoiding processed foods, bad bacteria attacks gut bacteria, and so now you can't make use of the food. Your mood's going to be affected. You're going to develop a lot of diseases and illnesses because of the gut bacteria being damaged. And plastic also raises estrogen, the hormone estrogen. And I want you also to look up, what does it mean to have high estrogen levels, whether in humans, whether in females or males. It has really, really hard, difficult symptoms, you know, to tackle. And it's hormones are not some things that you can treat with another hormone. You actually have to work on your nutrition to bring them down. So you have to work on your vitamin D, your B vitamins, your all of that together, your vitamin D. Now, pesticides, herbicides, GMOs, insecticides, plastic containers, and hormones that are given to teenagers and even to you know, older people, but they actually give them to people, and that's a crime. These happen to be around us in our food, and you know, we have to avoid these at every cost. Cleansing with natural remedies, scrubs, castor oil for stomach is a way to cleanse your body instead of taking antibiotics. Drinking water, lemon, and vinegar, all of these are going to be, you know, solutions for you to cleanse your body, and it improves also the metabolism. Eco-friendly cleaning products. Again, we just looked at the impact of VOCs, eco-friendly beauty products, and eco-friendly building materials. Spending time in the outdoors, sun, vitamin D, water, fresh air, and good bacteria, which comes from, let's say, fermented foods like yogurt and pickled food and all of these things. Now, when we say green chemistry, that's a way for us now to shift our industry and the way we produce, so that and the way we make our businesses. And so the principles of green chemistry, we will be looking at them in tier 3, but I like to introduce them over here. These focus on waste prevention, using less material for atom economy, less hazardous chemical. So basically, if we're not using hazardous material, basically it's eco-friendly. Designing for safer chemicals, the same concept. Safer solvents, use of renewable feedstocks, reducing derivatives. This means like the byproducts of a reaction. Using catalysts in order to save energy. Designing for degradation so that they're being reused again, and real-time pollution prevention, obviously. So we have a problem in our economy. We have a problem with debt. We have a problem with education, wellness, and we have become chronic consumers. Also, when it comes to, you know, sugar, processed food, and also even buying. And then we have the problem with vaccine companies that sometimes are they actually creating this disease so that we buy this vaccine, or are they creating the illness so that we're buying this medicine? So we have to be very careful over here. And therefore, we can create a better, healthier world by caring for the environment that we live in. And therefore, this creates a care for the people. So when you're designing, I want you to take into consideration the people piece. I want you to consider the economy, and I want you to consider the ecology in order to get to whole systems design.